All right, so let me go ahead and get us started so we can start the discussion and get us going here. So you know what this is. That obviously you've been a part of this process for a while. How often do you come to PMI Silicon Valley sessions? Is it the first one for you, or have you had other workshops like this? Other ones? Okay. And have they been useful, by the way? Yeah. Good. Excellent. So hopefully we'll add to the credibility of that today. So I want to tell you about PMI Silicon Valley. You know about it. If you haven't had that, in case you want to share it with colleagues. This is our approximate agenda for today. 4 key topics that we'll get into. We'll start with the highest level. Why are we in business in whatever industry we're in? How do you articulate that? How do you document that? How do you have productive discussions around it? This is actually a struggle for even executives in most organizations. If you talk to the VP of sales versus VP of marketing versus VP of operations, you may get 3 different stories where the company is growing and why. And how would that affect the specific decisions that are being made or investments that are being made, so on and so forth. So if you want to start with a discussion around how do you actually have that effective and productive discussion amongst the senior management team in your organization, and what is your role if you're actually trying to get things done, whether it's an IT developer or IT manager or CIO, all the way to, I'm heading up a particular business unit or M&A efforts. How does this all relate back to this, and how do I ask the right questions of the executives who are making these decisions? And by the way, you may not get the right answer when you ask those questions, but a lot of times, if they were doing good, the company would be growing fast. If the company is not doing good, that means some of those decisions have not been necessarily the best. So you want to also always apply the right level of grain of salt in that discussion as you talk about what that means.
The other aspect also is that many times we are at the execution level, we are looking at fine-grained details of things. We may not be able to connect it to the highest level.
Yes.
What this presentation, this workshop is going to do is, how do you link it all the way from what you're doing to a value proposition, to value streams, value proposition, and to the business model. It'll give you a strand to connect all of them, and you can ask the right questions to any leadership or guide them appropriately.
And typically, you may have been talking about it in the context of alignment. Are we aligned? Is IT aligned? This is the common complaint on the business side, right? The business unit always says, I think that they're doing something, and I know some of it's very important, but they're not focused on what I need to do to succeed in my business unit or area. Alignment is another key challenge that we'll talk about today, and how we can hopefully start to affect that in a positive way. The second part of our discussion after break, we'll get into specifically value proposition, what it means to your company, and we hope to be able to give you frameworks and tools, if you haven't seen these before, to start documenting or asking these questions and having productive discussions with your management team around these areas. So we'll talk about the latest that's going on with respect to digital disruptions, how companies are planning for blockchain or conversational user interfaces, or specific areas of technology that may have an impact on your line of business or business environment that you're in. And we'll talk about specific methods like customer journey map. Why is it done? How is it helpful? Design thinking. What does that have to do with delivering good solutions? And these are pretty much critical success factors, especially if you're in Silicon Valley, that you have to be able to apply successfully in your business environment. We'll take a break at a lunch break. It's around 12:15 or so. That's our goal right now. And then when we come back from lunch, we're going to get into specifically value stream mapping and idea of transformation planning. So some of you may have been exposed to the ideas of quality management. Some of you may have heard about Deming and Duran and TQM of the 80s and 90s, or operational excellence of the last 15, 20 years. All of these basically have capitalized on ideas of quality and customer focus, and basic ideas of how to get waste out of your operation. The concept of Toyota Way and Lean is one of those key areas that many organizations who are operationally focused try to bring to the organization. And we'll talk about one of those key concepts called value stream mapping, which is how you can start to think about what can have a positive impact on your customers and your business. So if I'm running the services line at Cisco, what does it mean to reconfigure and transform that operation so it's more focused on the customers? What does that exactly mean? Who should be involved in that discussion? How do I document? How do I have those discussions? And lastly, when we come back from the third break of the day, we'll get into a very in-depth discussion of SAFe specifically. Now, the reason that the discussion for SAFe is here, and as you already highlighted, many of you probably have heard about other methodologies like LESS, such as DA, Discipline Agile. You may have heard about Spotify, so on and so forth. There's a few other options out there. In the marketplace, so far, SAFe seems to be leading in both capturing mind share as well as plan to implement. So many organizations around the world actually are taking SAFe very seriously in terms of what it can do and how it can bring some of these agile concepts and different way of thinking to the large organization. Because almost every organization probably has some level of agile experience because they launched a small team of 5 or 10 people to go do something because I've heard about agile in the 2005, 2007 timeframe. But when they try to scale, they struggled. And they always say, go do agile and do good stuff. But that team, once it goes beyond their single project, it starts to struggle. So SAFe starts to bring in new ceremonies and new ways of thinking about how to deal with the broader strategic view of the company. What are the strategic things? What's the business strategy? How do I focus on the right set of opportunities? How do I actually build teams? How do I take my 2,000 IT person shop and organize them so that they can actually deliver things more effectively? SAFe is starting to think about those things. It's not perfect, but has a lot of very good disciplines, process, and frameworks that's within it that you can choose to apply as you see fit. You will not be able to take everything literally because many of those elements will be anti-culture. They will be completely opposite of what can survive in your company. A lot of this is significant cultural change. But within it, there may be 50% and maybe 90% of the ideas that could actually have an impact. So we'll talk about what it is. Hopefully you can take some of these away and start to apply it to your organization. As a matter of fact, folks who are responsible for transformation, especially for IT, pretty much need to have a framework, and this is the most common framework that organizations look at to be able to achieve.
Yes,
please.
Just a clarification.
Yes.
You mentioned about SAFe. What's the SAFe password?
Okay, scale, agile. It's framework or foundation, depending on who you talk to. Yeah. Yes. So a scaled agile framework and the actual website. The framework is free, by the way. You can just go to the website. The URL is scaledagileparamework.com, and you'll see the graphic as the first page. And then you can actually, there are live links throughout that whole entire framework that you can click on. I'm a product owner. I want to know what I'm responsible for. Click. It tells you what the idea and concept behind product owner is. What about a product manager? What about the release train engineer? All of those concepts. So anything that you hear today that you don't quite know or understand or you want to know more about, just you can go to the website, click on specific terminology, and it'll tell you. This is what a center of excellence is. This is what a lean portfolio management idea, all of those concepts. Okay, so that's our plan for today. Reasonable? A lot of content, obviously, but we just wanted to give you just a taste of these. Each one of these, they deserve a couple of days of discussion, as you can well imagine. But we're kind of packing all of it in about 130 pages or so with a bunch of exercises. We want you to kind of focus on what does it mean exactly when I want to apply this to my world, whatever that world is. So that's our goal today. In a lot of these, there's a lot of YouTube content that's available to you. We've selected a few 2 or 3 minute segments that will show you, but there's lots of content available on YouTube these days, as you know, that you can learn from all kinds of experts. All right. So this is our learning objectives. So in essence, one of our key goals is to help you link the business strategy all the way to the IT project, or vice versa. Know how your IT initiatives and projects and investments link back up to your strategic direction as a company. A key challenge for many, many organizations, and specifically the IT groups. A lot of IT groups become order takers after a while because there's so much demand on your time. It is very difficult to get a group together and say, which one is high priority? Just simple prioritization of your maintenance and enhancement backlog becomes a huge challenge because we don't have a common terminology, common framework to talk about those things. Linking it all the way back up to the CEO agenda, very complex. You can't even get the CEO sometimes to put down what they're trying to accomplish. It's all a secret. I'll let you know when we succeed, that kind of scenario. So we want to be able to talk about the relationships and how exactly it can have an impact. Another concept is, how do you know that we are being successful? What are the metrics that we should look at? Again, another common challenge. Either you have too many of those. I have 555 metrics that monitor things that nobody looks at. And sometimes, we don't need metrics. All we have to do is just beat competitor X. Or make sure we get more eyeballs than competitor Y. Whatever the idea is that works in that industry or business. Being able to figure those things out, write them down, get agreements, huge challenge. Again, as a planner, the idea is for you to be able to have those discussions with your best experts. Subject matter experts could be a VP of marketing, could be a head of finance. Whoever the subject matter experts are, need to agree on what those key metrics are that show that you're succeeding in your specific industry. We'll talk about some examples and how some of these tools can be helpful in helping you define those if you're not able to see those kind of information in your organization. Also, we want to talk about digital disruptions. What's your digital strategy? Well, depends on who you talk to, and it's all in the eye of the beholder. So digital is another one of those very overused, overhyped terminologies, just like client server was, just like any other hype cycle idea that you run into. Everybody wants to be digital. Everybody wants to have a digital strategy. What does it mean? What does it mean to have transformation? Right? If you go to a job site today, many of those is called transformation of some kind. I want to transform my finance group. I want to transform my logistics. I want to transform my business strategy. And each has their own view and definition of what they are trying to accomplish. Again, we want to bring some common definitions and frameworks to that discussion today and talk about how do you actually look at disruptive technologies and innovation. Obviously, in Silicon Valley, that's the lifeline of how companies operate. You have to know your industry. You have to know how you're innovating and staying ahead. Well, some of these methodologies are based on proven best practices that were born here in Silicon Valley. It's worked. It's been applied over and over again. Now what's happening is the traditional brick and mortar or the traditional large companies are trying to learn from that and bring those ideas to their business. What are they? There's quite a few of them. I would argue that benefits of the internet world, the connected world that we were hoping for in the late 90s, that created a huge bubble of the .com world, are now starting to be delivered. So what we expected to happen, like you read all the financial research analysts who were saying, the world is changing, the economy can grow at 8%, and all you have to have is eyeballs to look at your stuff, and all you have to be online, and all you have to have is .com. And those were the arguments that were being made. All you had to be was a B2B or a B2C company. And of course, you learned only a few of those companies survived. And I would argue that in the late 2018-19, you're actually starting to see those opportunities really emerge that can completely revamp the whole industry. Completely revamp. Think about all the cloud services you already use. Think about new business models that you've experimented with just in the last 3 to 4 years. Think about what's emerging in terms of artificial intelligence, in terms of offerings from all kinds of providers who are going to give you new ways of doing things in your industry. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, this is a good time I ask a question.
Please.
I'm going to ask I'm going to kind of develop that.
Okay, please do.
We have heard more and again about digital disruption.
Yes.
And there's a good thing that, look, if it is working, what is working?
Yeah.
If my company, if what is it doing is working, why do I want to disrupt it?
Yeah.
And could you link that to large-scale portfolio digital transformation?
Yes, absolutely. So the answer I would give is, do you want to be Amazon, right? These days, think about what happens to companies that cannot move as fast or don't have the right approach. Look at GE, the darling of Wall Street. Successful businesses across many industries and vertical subsegments, right? And extreme focus on quality, extreme focus on being able to be the best, number one or number two in whatever segment they were in. Look at their stock in the last 10 years, even though their CEO was trying hard to continue the trend that Jack Welch started. I would argue, look at GE and what they were trying to do this is why you should break it. GE dominates sometimes 60, 70, 80% market share in their industry and sub-industries, Yes, they were underperforming until the new CEO was just assigned recently. My only point is that that's the reason you want to break it, because you don't know when the next competitor is going to touch your industry, because there's significant opportunities to disrupt every industry today based on logistic opportunities. And this often that, I'll let also Prakash speak to this.
Yeah. Classic example of what we want to talk about is Blockbuster. At that time, they were the dominant provider of videos. Nobody could beat them. Guess what happened? The last store, Blockbuster store, closed in Alaska about a few months ago. But of course, they were totally out of the market.
It's all because of Netflix, which came in, and you will see in some of the examples we talk about, Netflix is one of the digitally native companies that brought that digital transformation, and they could scale so quickly that they could take everybody out of the market. Uber or Lyft or anybody. New York had such a dominance in this taxi industry, and many other cities too, they could not be shaken. Uber went in, now it's totally taken over most of the cities. Airbnb is the largest real estate type of company without owning any real estate. It's the largest hotel chain kind of thing that you can say, because most of the other hotel chains are also now subscribing to Airbnb to give their services. So why? It's because of this digital transformation that these companies have made that has taken over the business. So if you're in a business that's not embracing digital transformation, remember that there is somebody coming there to take it away. So that's why.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And there's many, many examples, right? You all know about the Kmarts, you know about the Sears, the whole world is changing around us, some faster than others. But I would argue that almost every industry will be impacted to some degree. Some significantly, they may go out of business, like we see what happened with Kmart and Sears. Others, they have to react, otherwise there will be Amazon in some way. So that's what you have to keep in mind as we go into this discussion. So what you are learning and what you're going to be doing will be significant in your company. You're either promoting, you may be an influencer, you may be a leader of this, or you may be the one who actually has to organize and execute some of these things. So having the framework for the discussion is always helpful than not having any idea of how you want to tackle it. So that's our goal, is to share with you some of those opportunities. Again, a little bit more about value stream mapping, how that's helpful, and the metrics that you need to have collected to be able to understand the client needs. And then, of course, we'll talk a lot about scaled Agile and how exactly that can change the way we deliver services from IT point of view. And I'm sure since you all come from that PMI world, you've always been kind of thinking about how do I deal with this Agile thing as you apply your PMBOK or your methods, your favorite methods, whether it's Prince2 or PMBOK to your specific projects. So that's basically the goal for today. That's me. As I mentioned, I've been doing a series of things around digital strategy for the last 20 years. In the 2000s, I did a lot of work around quality management and IT service management. I'm also an ITIL master, which basically means I understand how IT operations work and how you need to organize your resources to deliver consistent services of high quality. And of course, in the last 10 to 12 years, the focus has shifted in value delivery. How do you conceptualize projects? How do you do it for off-the-shelf solutions, customized solutions, or a series of integrated cloud services? How do you think about that and how to deliver those kind of capabilities to an organization? I'm also an ISO 20000 consultant and auditor and a CISSP, which is a security certification that's common in many organizations that deal with security issues. Prakash, you already heard about his background. Do you want to say anything else?
No.
Okay.
So, of course, I have all this Scrum and SAFe certifications, and I also went to Stanford for my leadership, MBA type of leadership classes on innovation and entrepreneurship, and learn, engage, accelerate, disrupt set of courses. About 17 MBA courses I've taken, and some of that we rolled into this presentation as well. We can share some of that, whatever we learned as well. Of course, in Cisco systems, I've been there as a Agile evangelist, DevOps evangelist for a long time, and also as a technology leader. I was in various leadership positions in engineering. I had a large engineering team under me. So all that experience we can bring to the table. We've been working with SAFE organization for quite some time, so we'll bring that experience here as well.
Maybe one question.
Yes, please.
So from your introduction, it's mostly SAFE is for only for IT and product technology product development, or is there other industries where this could be implemented?
I would say you could, it's really product development. If you look at what Dean Levington did in terms of developing, he was actually part of IBM's RUP methodology. He actually was one of the key authors and contributors in the late 90s, and throughout the 90s and late 90s. And I think his co-author also was involved with IBM's Rational Unified Process, or RUP, the Iterative Development Lifecycle Development Methodology. And then he's one of those lifelong learners that's continuously striving to learn how to improve something and bring best practices to our world of software engineering and product development. And he was doing a lot of work actually on this methodology, as Prakash mentioned, in the late 2000s into early 2012, or 1.0, 2.0. And eventually he ran into Dan Weinstein, who was actually a key thought leader in terms of product development methodologies. And he had actually developed very specific methods to be able to bring lean concepts to product development and agile product development. He actually liked what he had to say and the methodologies that he offered around best practices, and he brought most of those concepts into the SAFE methodology, and you'll see it throughout the whole framework.
So the another methodology that I have been referring to is the theory of constraints. So
Yes,
the theory
yes.
of constraints closely aligns with lean,
Yes,
and to some extent it intersects with agile too, some of the principles, right?
absolutely.
So why aren't we not talking about that much more on the PMI side? Like why?
Sure. I mean, again, from a PMI perspective, we have a good, very strong framework for delivering large initiatives of any type, right? It's basic, how do we approach large initiatives? With SAFE, SAFE has really become a framework that specifically deals with, if I have successful small projects, how do I scale them and make them larger and be able to deliver against the entire IT portfolio? That's a question that CIOs have been asking for the last few years. How do I make this good ideas work in large scale for the entire portfolio? Theory of constraints are actually pretty much applied almost universally in all operational excellence initiatives. So if you've heard that a company, we are operationally excellent, look at Amazon. That's an extreme example of operational excellence. Look at how they run their warehouses, how they deliver packages, look at how they transform everything, right? They are going to be probably larger than FedEx and UPS as it relates to delivery services. They're going to be larger than maybe McKesson at some point for drug distribution. Who knows? Because they're very good at understanding their customers and knowing how to eliminate the pain of doing whatever they do, removing waste. Well, that requires a framework, right? Theory of constraint is one of those very, very key concepts that is a part of Lean, and pretty much if you're an operational excellence implementer, practitioner, you apply it almost to everything that you do to improve your operations. So from a SAFE perspective, the idea exists within it. It's not called the theory of constraint. However, you look at, why am I looking for the shortest weighted average job? Why? Well, it has been known and proven that it's much, much better to create this small increments of work, right? That could be done in 5 to 10 days, rather than having a series of 20 days and 50 days and 80-day kind of work that are managed. Why? Because you can optimize the outputs and throughput of a system. So they're not calling it theory of constraint, but the design of the methodology incorporates those basic ideas. Did you want to say anything about that?
So actually to answer both your question and Sagar's question as well, Agile, what we see here has been mostly applied from a software engineering perspective, but Agile has been applied for all projects that are not just necessarily software engineering. Now when SAFE is being talked about, it's more on scaling Agile. So if you apply Agile to a software engineering project, yes, you can scale using SAFE. If you apply Agile to a non-software engineering project, you can still apply SAFE. It's just that how you bring all these concepts together. We are going to talk about some value stream mapping aspects as well, when we talk about that, the software engineering aspects of value stream mapping has been codified already with Agile and DevOps and all those kinds of actual implementation techniques. Whereas for all others, you can still go from fundamental principles that we are going to talk about here. How do you bring it down to the lowest level of execution, regardless of whether it's Agile from software engineering perspective or not? So theory of constraints is one of those kinds of mechanisms that will help us translate from where we are, from a business model, value proposition, down to execution. It applies there. So lean is one of those techniques that we will use, which incorporates some of the constraints that you're talking about. So,
yeah. And you'll see this around a lot of frameworks that already been proven. You will see a lot of XP best practices incorporated. So if you look at what Levin has done, whenever he saw a good idea, whatever discipline it came from, he actually incorporated it as a part of the methodology. And he's being very successful in getting traction in the marketplace, so he is reinvesting the dollars he's earning back into the methodology. So you're already at 4.5, 4.6 just came out last month, and he'll continue to evolve by simply the fact that he's reading all about best practices all the time, using his 30 plus years of experience, learn this idea has to be in there. This is how we should do portfolio management. And you see that in the framework all the time. He's actually applying this, you may not call it theory of constraint or XYZ, but you will see the actual discipline within the methods. So hopefully we can get more examples.
Yeah, so one more thing on the scaling. Yes, we have taken scale agile to a greater extent here, but as I was transforming across Cisco, there were hundreds of groups and there were people who had different opinions there as well, and we had to accommodate them. And I've come up with another variation on SAFE, which if we have time we can talk about it or we can discuss it later as well, that follows some of the agile principles to the core, but still brings the scaling into perspective. So there are many others, less Spotify. Each one of them have some pros and some cons as well. Overall, SAFE has been a great tool to scale agile, but you can have a variation even within SAFE, and that's another topic that we can discuss if we want to.
Excellent, thank you. So, this is actually the first slide in our discussion. Digital strategies. Why should we care? Why do we not break what's already working? Well, because we see all the way around us what's happening. Sharing economy is completely revamping. We talked about transportation business. Look at what happened to taxis around the world. This is a phenomenon that's worldwide, not just US. Huge phenomenon. So being able to match buyers and sellers is a huge thing. If you remember B2C and B2B, that was the big ideas, and everybody wanted to have everything in the marketplace in the 2000 timeframe. Well, what's happening right now, there are companies that have taken over those concepts and have become the unicorns of their industries. So the Uber idea, the Airbnb idea, Amazon actually getting into all kinds of businesses by simply knowing how to be good at running businesses. Basically, that's what they do well. They actually took the entire IT industry by surprise by being early developer of the cloud infrastructure that was shareable, AWS. Microsoft didn't really even think about it until about 5 years after Amazon had started. So Azure wasn't even a focus for the company until about late 2000s. Whereas Amazon actually started focusing on it in the early 2000s, and eventually it became the dominant player, and it still are. It's all about AWS versus Azure these days. So the key point here is that you can see lots of examples. I mean, we already talked about them. Since you don't have a lot of time, again, this could be a whole day course about what industries are affected in what way and how can it affect your industry specifically. Well, these are the best examples. Everybody's heard about FANG, the FANG stocks, right? The FANG stocks are pretty much these disruptors, right? The Facebooks, the Apples, right? The Netflix, the Googles, right? These are the companies that are creating the new world in those areas that they have influence on, or technologies that they can bring to the table. So here, these are what we call the digital native organizations. They started in the digital world. Amazon got started to do book selling differently. And they discovered they could sell other stuff as well. And not only they can sell it, they can actually completely transform the experience as a customer and deliver it to you without even waiting for it for more than a couple hours. Huge, huge changes in our industry because of that. Direct-to-customer kind of platform, like Dollar Shave Club or Tesla, again, completely disintermediating the dealers. This idea, if you remember, was around, are dealers going to exist? Well, yeah, we're going to have a hybrid model, but quite a few companies are now selling to direct to consumers in some way. Again, huge opportunity that may change many different industries. 3D printing, that's going to also change innovation and delivery of all kinds of ideas. Imagine us being able to create whole new cities by just printing the city on the moon, on Mars, whatever it is that's in some point in the future. Tesla, being able to completely change the paradigm of transportation by you having to drive your computer, or the computer drives you. It's a computer on wheels. Look at the screen. It's bigger than your typical home monitor, right? Everything is, again, taking advantage of clean energy, and everything is updated over air. Software updates happening, again, real time as you drive your car. Payment services, all changing. PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, which is the response to Venmo, again, completely changing. Each one of these unique services could have an impact in your industry, right? Or an opportunity to change some aspect of what you do in your industry. Another key area is Internet of Things. Billions and billions of these things will be connected in some way. That has huge impact on operations. Imagine knowing everything you want to know about whatever you do. Whether you're transporting oil, or delivering something, or wanting to know about when the next bulb will go out in your fridge. These are products that you're actually getting now in stores. You can actually buy things that will tell you, I'm about to have a problem next month, have somebody come and do something about it. And of course, analytics and insights, the idea of big data. Taking advantage of information that's available and the fact that we're so freely willing to show our preferences in the marketplace so that they can sell us stuff. Again, huge, being able to understand and take advantage of data around you to do a better job of targeting your customers is going to be a key opportunity. So all of that said, we can again spend lots of time on this. This has to have an approach that allows you to compete effectively. And being able to organize your resources in a way that can be responsive to these trends is critical. Companies call it digital transformation opportunities, or digital disruptions, or migrating to the digital models. Whatever you call it, we want to have the ability to take advantage of these trends and opportunities. So hopefully one idea that we want to leave you with is there's a reason to disrupt your business model. And if your company is not thinking about it, they should, because they'll be surprised. So bottom line is that every company's products will eventually have some software in it, and software engineering will be a discipline that we all have to understand in some way. Some portions of it are simply subscribing to things. Other times it's actually wanting to integrate those things together. Being able to do that effectively and delivering solutions will be a key critical capability going forward. Your digital tools will be important. Being able to understand what it takes to improve your processes, moving from a cost center to an enabler, and being able to drive sometimes this strategy. And imagine that projects that are in Agile today are in essence the future of your company. So doing that well is that critical. You are actually investing time in ensuring your success. Otherwise, the competitors that can do it well, the people that you don't know about, will be there in a couple of years completely revamping how you do your business, basically, without your knowledge sometimes. So the key for us would be to be able to bridge the gap between definition, delivery, vision, execution, and what is real. And the methodologies we'll talk about today is things to help us do that, basically, bridge that gap. Holistic transformation, connecting vision to execution. Is there any company that doesn't have to innovate today? I mean, do any of you think that innovation is not critical to your livelihood of success? I mean, GE is a perfect example of a company that was completely dominant of every industry that they were in. They were either number one or two, otherwise would be out of that business. Every one of their business units has struggled for the last 5 years. And I'm sure you all have seen their ads. Oh, I mean, the guy with the glasses who came in and talked about what they're doing, they're actually delivering business services, but they were software engineer. That was their motto, is that we actually know how to run operations using software technology, but in reality, they were never able to perform or innovate the way that they needed to.
So how do you challenge your executives to focus your funds on innovation and talk about productivity as opposed to efficiencies,
Right.
efficiencies
Yes.
from the IT world, right? So if you take a look at, ITIL,
Yeah.
IT operations,
Yeah.
everything's about efficiencies, how do I save money?
Yes.
How do you flip that and
Yes.
say, hey, we're going to innovate so we can get this?
Yes. So that becomes who actually is running your portfolio and investment management area in the company. So who does that today? Well, it depends on the company. Sometimes the CEO who does it in their mind every day to decide, stop this, I'm going to start that, let me see what you've done. Sometimes like that, it's very personality driven. If you're a larger company, you usually have a group of people. Usually there's 3 or 4 thought leaders with some credibility and experience, and they're the ones who do the analysis. Usually they go after competitive analysis of some sort, right? They go do SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. They document that. They get input from senior management team in sales, marketing, finance, operations. They get validations on what are the real threats, what are the real opportunities. They build consensus around it. Then they look at their portfolio. Are we investing in areas that can actually help us based on this analysis? So my quick response to that would be, usually you want to have somebody who either already knows it because they've been in the industry for a long time. If I don't do this in this industry, we'll be in trouble. Or a group that has the skills to go out, do the analysis, get the facts, present it, get the input from all the thought leaders, build consensus, document that.
But you're also assuming that they have the cultural mindset to make that shift.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's how companies who succeed, right, have the mindset of creating that success. Sometimes it's personality driven, like a Tesla, Elon Musk. Other times it may be a whole group. Like look at Apple and how well they manage their initiatives and innovations. Everybody waits with bated breath, right? Every year, I want to see what's next. And all they did was increase the CPU speed or something. But they make such a great effort at marketing and expectation management and customer management and being the best in whatever they're doing. So all I'm saying is that the strategy is different. Look at Amazon. You could argue they can use their employees, right? But by the same token, the folks who are running the company is a strategy that are extremely successful. Every industry is afraid, what's Amazon going to do to me? Basically, right? Because some of the things that they're doing will have an effect on you at some point. So I would say that if you're in a position of influence, you want to raise the question. You want to suggest thoughtful analysis. You want to suggest observing the key trends that has an impact on your company. What is it? Again, always look at your competitor. If you're in a private sector, look at the competition. Those are there now, those that may emerge next year. Again, you want to basically raise these issues to say, yeah, these are real issues. And you'll find that once you do that analysis, there is no option but to innovate. If you can't innovate, you'll be left out, basically. And that analysis is key, though, that concept. Another key concept here is that mass personalization or one-on-one engagements. People expect their devices to be completely unique to their needs. Companies who can do that well, they can actually have successful products, right? So knowing your customer and their wants and needs before they know it, anticipating it. Apple does that really well. They spend lots of money on usability and being able to have products that excite individuals. And they do a good job of managing the market and expectations and all that. So being able to capitalize on these ideas and enable the company to become one-on-one kind of engagement is going to be key to success for many organizations. And one thing I want to say about the challenges, usually your legacy IT is the biggest challenge. For most organizations, even after they decide how they want to innovate, where they want to innovate, they immediately run into, oh my God, the 25-year-old mainframe thing that I got doing this, and the 20-year-old Unix things that I wrote that's doing that, and the fact that I can't integrate using X, Y, Z, so on and so forth, right? The legacy IT challenges that we always want to do.
It's not just the technology, but also the data.
Usually it's all about the data.
I think it's more the data.
Yes.
I mean, I think there's the IT piece, the system piece, that capability. But the data, even though they integrate, improve their technology, all the data
quality of that data, right? So we do have, of course, silos of data, which is a challenge by itself. But technology can usually overcome that. But technology cannot overcome the actual meaning, the semantics, right? Because the data in one system is 5 characters or 6 characters in another one. It was used for free-form text on one, structured data on another. Just coming up with a plan that cleans that data and gives you the kind of insights you need is a huge challenge by itself. That's why analytics is a huge deal, because if you know how to take advantage of that data, and you can actually run your statistical model and tell you how to take advantage of certain trends, that's huge. And most organizations struggle with data.
So
and all these are built in silos.
Yeah, infrastructure is changing, right? People are getting onto cloud, and it's providing a common platform where you can get all the data, cleanse them together, cleanse them all, and put them in a format that it can be used. So moving out of legacy IT is one of the key things that helps in digital transformation.
Actually, it's not just data, it's how we derive the data, what information we get, for what reason. And that again depends on the organization. You see, what is that theory of
constraints?
Yeah. It's closely tied to, for example, critical path method, right? Which derives back to what kind of legacy application I have, what kind of data I have. I've been engaged with a few California state organization agencies, and we have like 200 years, 195 years of data, and we wanted to drive some, for instance, for our Senate floor, when there's a bill coming in, we want to make sure that that bill doesn't negate past historic bill. Okay. Most of those data has been residing on IBM mainframe, right, as data. Now driving that, making note of that data, bringing information out of that, mapping that to the current Senate floor with the active bill is a daunting job. Now let's try that on a setting, and I go back to the question, how to not challenge but persuade our executives that look, the old legacy is costing us money every day. How about if we try small initiation and come up with a small project, show the value, and see how it works. By the way, that project costs us, keeping that legacy data is costing us millions of dollars annually. So it would be more to take a look at from another angle and see, can we have an initiative small project to look at it and see the value of it?
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
You may be saying right, but the thing is, it's not that easy. The challenge, what I've seen, I work for a few big companies. The business process is ingrained in the company. There is a business process. And many people do not know how you are building systems to support those business processes.
Yes.
So now you want to move away from legacy. You need to have that kind of like as if you're building ground up.
Yes.
That's a big challenge for any big company to take a decision like that.
Yes.
That is the difference. I believe where Amazon and the disruptors have the advantage is they're starting afresh, it's a new technology. And as you said, the data is one of the key elements of it, and they know exactly where the data is and how they could use the data. And as you said, right, so the whole legacy is in silos, and they really didn't know what the data means. Like the customer data is in 10 different systems.
That's right.
Somebody is using 6 digits, somebody is using 8 digits, or somebody is this. How to connect that and then effectively use the data, that has been a big challenge.
Absolutely.
So that's how, because people are scared of Amazon because they have already using the cutting edge technology and they know exactly what they did in the last 40 years.
Yes, exactly. So these are all challenges, and I think one thing we can all say is that almost all large companies have legacy technology concerns, issues, challenges. It is not easy to innovate when you've had systems that go multi-generations from the 60s to 70s to 80s to so on and so forth. And almost all of them have systems that go back 20 or 30 years. And you know for a fact that many of those systems are not maintainable any longer. You're just waiting for the next emergency to occur so you can go fix something. How do you get off of that? That's a whole discussion by itself. And we can probably spend the whole day talking about legacy migration, legacy analysis. How do you evaluate those systems? The concept called portfolio rationalization. How do you do that analysis to decide to invest in it or not? All of this has to be driven by your business strategy, though. The point is that there's many challenges that we all know about in every company that you go into. Where do you invest the money? Which problem do you fix? Which system do you replace? Has to be strategic. And it cannot be an IT decision based on, oh, that's an IMS. I have to be on Oracle. It cannot be that kind of decision. It's one of, I'm doing this because X company may come in this part of my value chain and completely revamp how much it costs to deliver my product. Oh, okay, that's a problem. Let's now go fix the issue, whatever the issue is. So being able to translate whatever you want to work on to specific business issues is really key. That's why as IT leaders or professional portfolio managers or program managers, we need to really understand what goes on in the business world and business strategy. We need to be informing, influencing decision makers. This is not a good investment. Yes, it can be fixed with $5 million, but that $5 million is much better spent someplace else. Being able to kind of make those connections, because remember at the top, it's very difficult to know which of the 120 systems are the most challenging for this particular business issue. They don't know. So the people who know are this middle layer, right? They have the biggest view into all the systems you have, all the challenges they've seen for the last 10 years, and letting the management know, if you want to do this, you better spend $5 million now on this rather than this. That kind of a discussion is what we hope this kind of a framework that can allow us to achieve. This particular slide simply saying that innovation is not optional. Why we have challenges with the traditional waterfall approaches is because of level of change in the industry and the fact that requirements are most of the time unknown to a great degree. When we move into a whole new project, almost 80% of what is needed to be known at that point in time to come up with a reasonable estimate is unknown. Nobody knows what it takes to deliver X, that next generation product, that next opportunity. How does this emerge? Nothing, just emerges based on people talking, experts getting together in the right methods, in the right ceremonies to discuss the latest learnings and applying those specific knowledge to the next 2 weeks, the next 6 weeks, the next program increment that we'll talk about. So those are critical, and the fact is that if you've been around project management, you do know that almost 80% of the time, early estimates are off, sometimes off by 20%, sometimes by 50%. And as we get closer and closer to finalizing the requirements, later in the stages of even design, then you can say, okay, I can now be between plus minus 10%. So Agile says, estimates by definition are imperfect, and in today's world are almost impossible to be correct. So forget estimates. The idea is that we will only work on what is known. And we will fund the team, and we will mandate specific outcomes that we know about. It's very much focused on the next level of capabilities that could be built with known information. So requirements doesn't have to be known. Requirements can emerge. Design does not have to be known. It can be options. Those ideas, those principles are going to be helpful in any industry that you're in. What you should take away from SAFE is some of these ideas, and you can look at what you're doing, what your common practices today in your company. So, well, this is why we're struggling. This is why the last 2 projects went 50% over budget. Taking those little nuggets from each one of these methodologies will have extreme impact in your long-term success in the company. Okay. So this is basically the journey that we usually like to talk about and see in most organizations. So it starts with a vision. That's building awareness, documenting what you're currently doing, the SWOT analysis. What are my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? Being able to develop a vision of where you're trying to go and building consensus. That was the question that you were asking earlier on. What is the first step? That is the first step. Without that vision, you're just struggling because today's priority is X. Guess what? It may have been completely valid today. You come back on Monday, oh my God, did you hear what XYZ did? Semantic just did X. Oh, okay, what do I do now? Complete change in priority, complete change in direction based on something that you did not anticipate. Why? Because there wasn't a thorough discussion, analysis, consensus. Something that just showed up, wasn't even on your radar. Why wasn't it on your radar? Why didn't you know that Amazon may have something next month that may have an impact on you? Because we hadn't done this and we didn't create a compelling vision that we all agreed to. So the first step is very critical. Establishing governance, building a roadmap, having a structure in place for governance and decision-making, and funding that portfolio. Take the vision, understand what it means in terms of specific projects, both business, operations, and technology, and decide what investments and why, and be willing to completely revamp that strategy and react to the marketplace. One of the things that you'll find common across all of these ideas is you cannot trust the 3 to 5 year plans anymore. You may not be able to trust the 1 year, 3 year plan. You need to be agile, means that I can incorporate new ideas without disrupting that entire project. How many of us know projects that go on for 2, 3, 4 years, spend $50 million before they say, oh, stop that, please. Get Joe to work on the other one. And we struggle to just cancel stuff. Agile says, forget that methodology, forget that old approach. Let's focus on being able to respond to change. So many of the methods that you see here is all about responding to change. It's perfectly fine if there's a new idea that I have to take advantage of next week. All it does, it changes how I prioritize the stuff that's going on next week. How good is that? If I could actually react to any change that happens. First of all, it has to be a thoughtful set of activities to begin with, but not everything will be known at always all times. So you need to be able to say, oh, something significant happened. And all I have to do is stop 4 of these things and add 2 more things. That's a good thing if you can do that. Mobilize the workforce to go after this, establishing the authority, accountability, a portfolio manager that it works with the team that are executing, establishing success metrics, being able to communicate why do we care about this metric? Why is it important that inventory turn has to be 3 or 5 or 10? Why is it important that cost structure in this distribution center has to be under 5%? Why is that important? Well, because somebody thought about it. They said, unless we can do this, we won't survive. And you better all focus on projects that help us reduce costs in this area down to under 5%. Imagine, as a project manager, knowing that level of detail that says, if my market share in this segment falls below 25%, I'm in trouble. If my cost structure in this distribution goes up by 4%, I'll be in trouble. What are those things? What are those ranges? What is the success criteria? Most companies do not have the ability to establish those just simply because of governance issues, personalities, politics. If you're in a company, there's politics. Again, good companies have people who have clear visions and they're executing and they're taking the company to a certain direction. Others, they try to develop that amongst their key leadership and they struggle with it, and unless you're successful with it, you get what you get. The cultural norm is whatever you get. Whatever you've done in the last 15 years is what you're going to continue to get for the next 5, until you're disrupted by one of those digital natives. Finally, being able to sustain, continuously being able to develop or redevelop the skills that are needed, defining and refining your incentive and rewards. How do I keep the best guy I have in XY technology? How do I attract the next guru on blockchain? How do I get the next Internet of Things technology manager in this position? So on and so forth. And of course, being able to look at that performance and metrics and be able to plan and change accordingly. So metrics become critical, not hundreds of metrics, but a few. I need to know the 4 or 5 things that makes me succeed in my business, given the current conditions. How you develop those is just a matter of having the analysis done with the right people in the process. This is the approach that we recommend in our discussion with clients in general. Start with understanding your business and digital strategy. Why are you transforming? What is the end objective? Am I just trying to acquire companies just to acquire companies? I'm actually pursuing a certain product roadmap or a vision or a financial engineering model, whatever it is that I'm trying to do. Do I have a clear understanding of what that is? Once I understand that, then I should be able to do things from a people and process point of view. What things do I need in terms of the kind of people I need, capabilities I need, and what kind of process changes? What processes have to change for me to successfully compete with today's competitors as well as tomorrow's? How do I do that? And finally, those eventually translate into IT changes. Everything that we do in business eventually comes down to how I automate it using some technology. How I can go back and take a look at those legacy challenges and do things differently becomes critical. Connecting these 3 things together allows us to have a comprehensive aligned approach. So IT projects are no longer, I have $55 million this year. Who wants how much? To my strategy is this. This is why I'm doing it. If the competitor comes in, I'll do something else, scenario planning. And if they don't emerge, I'm going to work on 4 systems to establish a capability that I don't have today in this way. If you can create that, if you can articulate that, if you can put that in play and make it completely transparent and understandable to everyone, guess what? You now have 10,000 people marching in a certain direction. How powerful is that? Most organizations struggle with that, and usually highly dependent on the personality that drives the organization, right? We all know about companies who have personalities driving the company. So anyhow, so this is the background for this. These are some of the strategic questions. As I said, each one of these areas probably could be hours of discussion. But these are the type of questions that you want to think about as you're going back and thinking about what's important to your business. Your business model. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you delivering it the way you're delivering it? Why are you developing products in this category? What is it that's going to help you sustain in the next 5 years? Documenting and being able to get everybody to understand and buy into your plans. Does it play to your strength? If it doesn't, it's probably not a good idea to invest in it. Does it take advantage of digital opportunities? Can blockchain change how I do my contracts? Can conversational interfaces help me expand the number of consumers in this subsegment of my market, so on and so forth. Again, building, measuring, learning. This continuous model that allows us to continuously take risks, break things, and innovate. That is the model that has worked well, especially in Silicon Valley. Now it's a requirement for every industry. And of course, what are the alternatives and what can we do to react to these opportunities? Achieving, at the end, an enterprise-wide alignment, reducing complexity, and increasing transparency. To us, that's key. To survive, the world is very complex today. You know that. In every company that you work with, you know how complex it is. Got to find ways to reduce that complexity so everybody can understand what you're talking about and make things transparent. This is why you're measuring 3 things. And this is what those 3 measures are. This is where you can go to see what you're doing this month with respect to those measures. Very critical to success. So one of these tools that we like a lot is this idea of a business model canvas. Of course, the pure academics criticize it. Oh, strategy is a lot more than this. This is too simplistic. Actually, simplicity is what we need. Everybody can come up with a complex 10-page, highly sophisticated mathematical model that tells us something. But if nobody else can understand it, guess what? It's only good in that person's mind. Nobody else is doing anything about it. Being able to simplify what we're doing in very simple terms is very critical. So we're going to talk about this idea of a business model canvas. Have you heard about the idea of business model canvas? If no. So hopefully one of the useful things from today's meeting would be business model canvas. When you talk to some of your management team members in your company, then maybe you should document what we're doing on this so people can understand it. So go ahead.
Is this kind of the operating architecture?
It is operating architecture. It is a planning architecture that actually came from this gentleman. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. It's a little bit more on the strategy, what you want to do, rather than just operating at the lower level. It's coming from the highest.
It's the highest level model. How you make money in your industry? Why do customers buy from you? Right? And there's attributes in your business model that actually deliver that service in the right way to clients.
Actually, in reality, practicality, I am applying that to different settings. That includes, for instance, small IT operation, all the way to marketing. Just to model what we're doing in a simple way. As opposed to, if you look at the analytics, I've read 42, 43 patents of Google. Each took me about a week or 10 days just to understand the mathematics behind it. Okay, what I can take out of those patents, put in a simple way. When I go to my client for online marketing initiation, I can just put on a 1 page, say that, let's take a look at your business needs, model it. And then based on that, we can do some practical.
So this idea came from this gentleman out of Switzerland, Swiss gentleman, Alex Osterwalder. a very, very bright and clear thinker, and you'll see why in a second here. I'm going to play back for you, this is part of our process here, the 2 or 3 minute segment, and let him actually explain what it is, and we'll go back and talk about it for a moment.
Now, what is this language about? It's about 9 building blocks. 9 building blocks that allow you to describe or design every business model you can imagine. The ultimate possibility, thousands of alternatives. So let's watch a movie, 2 minutes, that will explain what the business model canvas is. So if I explain it, it'll probably take 15 minutes, so that's why I made a movie, so you can get a quick overview of the business model canvas.
An organization's business model can be described as 9 basic building blocks: your customer segment, your value proposition to each segment, the channels to each customer, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources or key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a pre-structured canvas. This is what we call the business model canvas, a tool that helps you map, discuss, design, and present new business models. Let's briefly go through the 9 building blocks, starting with the customer segment. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. This includes simple users and paying customers. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. Channels describe to each touch point you're interacting with customers and delivering value. The customer relationship outline the type of relationship you're establishing with customers. The revenue streams make clear how and through which pricing mechanisms your business model is capturing value. Then you need to describe the infrastructure to create, deliver, and capture value. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model. Key activities show which things you really need to be able to perform well. The key partners show who can help you leverage your business model. If you want to have all key resources yourself, know you perform all key activities. And once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. So with a business model canvas, you can map out your entire business model in one image. This works for startup entrepreneurs just as well as for the most senior executives.
So 9 building blocks, pretty straightforward. The individual building blocks are not new. Probably most of you know every piece of it, right? To look at this a little bit, you have an idea of what this is. But the important thing here is that we have all 9 on one slide or one poster if we print it out. And then we understand how they all fit together. So we get the big picture understanding. Not just the product, for the engineers in the room, great products are becoming a commodity. It's the combination between great products and a great business model that's going to keep you ahead in competitions in the coming decades.
Okay, so that's a quick 2-minute overview of what we mean by a business model canvas. And this graphic that I've shared with you shows you the 9 building blocks. And here's an example, Uber's.
So we invented something called the business model canvas. And the business model canvas
go. Okay, so here's an example of Uber's, and actually today's exercises are simplified by trying to focus on 2 companies. So we are all employees at Lyft, and we're all trying to come up with ways of outdoing Uber. And we want to do that using the small canvas. So the exercise that's coming up in a couple minutes is all about looking at Uber and then coming up with our approach. We'll have 2 groups do this. in a small setting, 3 or 4 of us. And Prakash and I will kind of join one of the teams. And we want to have a discussion for about 10 minutes, write down our ideas, then consolidate after discussion together, and then present to the other group. That's our exercise that's coming up. So, very simple, 1 page. Shouldn't the company have something like this? Yeah, so I mean, whatever, if I'm in security software, if I'm in networking, if I'm in the semiconductor, right? I should have a good perspective of why I'm doing what I'm doing. How will my revenue stream change if I go to a subscription-based model? How would I be able to serve my customer better if I had a different channel of delivery? How could I actually have a better interaction with the customer with higher turnover ratios for browsing versus to sales by having conversational interface, things of that nature, right? This allows that conversation to happen very, very quickly with the subject matter experts. And once you put those ideas on the stickies and on this board, and it's documented, easy way to communicate why we're doing what we're doing.
So we are going to follow up on that throughout the day. There are 4 exercises. What you get from the first exercise will feed into your second one, and then to the third one, and then to the fourth one. So it'll take you all the way from the strategy level to the execution.
Does that make sense as far as so this way you can actually start, most people like to think about and write things down before it becomes second nature, so we want to use that approach to make sure at least you have an opportunity to apply the concepts we're discussing. KPIs. What do you measure? It depends on your industry. It's not something that somebody randomly can come up with. Somebody better do the analysis and say, you know what, we're really great at inventory management, or we're really great in delivering with the lowest possible cost, whatever those things are. And for us to succeed or maintain, you got to manage X. What is administrative cost should be X. Current performance 14%. Target performance should be that we reduce it by 40%. As an example. Inventory is 22%. We need to reduce it by 25%. Lost sales and service is currently at 42%. We want to reduce that 42% to less than by 50% down to 20%. Transportation and warehousing costs are at 18%. We want to reduce that to 14%, so on and so forth. A few key metrics that says how I will succeed in my business. And guess what? Then people who are doing planning can take that data and say, well, none of this project is actually helping with any of that stuff. Okay, if that's the answer, then you should stop. Yes, of course, there's many problems I can look at and fix, but the only ones that really matter are the ones that have an impact on your strategic outlook and capabilities. That's the key. So if you don't have one of these things, ask management, what are our KPIs? What is it that's going to help us succeed going forward? Oops, there you go. This is an example of, in reality, what happens in this half a day discussion. You get the best minds that you have in the company in the room. You discuss the model, why it's important, what it is. Everybody goes to their corners for minutes at a time, writes down their ideas on stickies. What you find in Agile frameworks is a lot of stickies, ideas. Usually in a certain color, because colors have a meaning usually in this process. We establish a common meaning for color green, color red, color blue, so on and so forth. And those ideas then are put on each one of these 9 areas or 9 domains or the building blocks. Then you discuss them, and then you refine them. Then you develop a mutual understanding of them. Then you turn it into a specific thing that everybody can understand. That's one of the key philosophies of Agile. Don't go write the 50-page report that takes you 6 months to do and then for somebody to approve. Spend half a day, come up with the ideas, publish it, refine it, change it. If it's a bad idea, that's okay. Change it, make it right. That's a cultural philosophy that is completely different than a lot of organizations. Some don't even do any kind of planning. So, exercise number 1, we're a little bit behind time, but we can catch up very easily. It's about 10:30 now, so we're only about 30 minutes behind. In your packet, there is actually this. We probably don't have to hand this out. Given this, we have the hard copy. I brought this just in case. Everybody should have on page 19. Is it? 9. I'm sorry, 17 or 18.
It's very small.
It's very small.
Yeah, no,
there we go.
We can write on this one.
That's right.
Each one,
Oh, yeah, you can hand
one
that
for
out.
each team or something.
That's right.
like that.
Actually, if you want to keep your package, let's go ahead and hand those out. Thank you, Prakash.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a clean copy for you. And also it's a full page rather than half a page.
Actually, it's one per team,
Yes.
but you can each one have, if you write on that.
Well, actually, let's do one individual, so everyone does it individually also, and then one team one. So one of you becomes a scribe for the team eventually. Those ideas that you like goes on to the one master. So it's going to be one per person and then one for the team. Okay, so we have 3 and 3, right? Are you participating in the exercise? Yeah. Okay, so you, yeah, okay, great. So this 4 would be one team. Yeah. On this side, these 4 would be another team. So here's the basic idea. You're a part of the strategic planning team at Lyft, and you've been asked to come up with a new model that can differentiate your offering from Uber. I'm going to put up in a moment here the Uber business model canvas, so you know what they're doing. So, and as an example, so that you can refer to it. So on the screen, we're going to have the Uber for reference for you guys. Right now, the time is 10:34. So I'm going to start timing. I'm going to stop you at about 10:45. So we've finished our first section, which is a little bit longer, some setting context. We have 3 more specific topics we're going to get into. The next topic that Prakash will be covering, and I'll kind of chime in as needed here, is around the idea of a value proposition canvas. This is going to be a focus around the specific discussions that we started around the customer segment and the value proposition. Why is that important? How do you develop it? How do you use that as a way to come up with ideas, products, services, and specifically other related topics that we'll get into around customer journey maps and design thinking. That's our next topic.
We are going to dig deep into the same canvas, but with more emphasis on 2 segments, 2 parts, value proposition and customer segments. And then we are actually going to drill down more into customer segments, how you get into understanding more of that through some of the videos and some explanation before we get to that exercise. So before lunch, we'll cover all these topics, and then when you come back from lunch or during lunch, let's do the exercise that we will catch up on time. Okay? So you saw the 2 most important segments, 2 most important sections of the business model canvas. Start with the value proposition and customer segments. Who are you serving and what are you providing to serve those customers? Let me go through this quick video and then we'll see what it says. It's a short 3-minute video. Strategizer is the company that came up with this value proposition canvas to dig deep into what you want, what you can do in terms of what you can offer. So,
Just click on it and that'll take it to you. Just going to go ahead and make it maximum.
Every day, companies design products and services to improve their customers' lives. But 72% of new product and service innovations fail to deliver on expectations. This means that customers don't care about 7 out of 10 new products introduced to the market. It doesn't have to be this way. Just like you create value for your business with a business model canvas, there is in fact a tool to intentionally...
Sorry, are you going to try to restart?
Every day, companies design products and services to improve their customers' lives. But 72% of new product and service innovations fail to deliver on expectations. This means that customers don't care about 7 out of 10 new products introduced to the market. It doesn't have to be this way. Just like you create value for your business with a business model canvas, there is in fact a tool to intentionally visualize, design, and test how you create value for customers. It's called the Value Proposition Canvas. The Value Proposition Canvas is composed of 2 parts, the customer profile and the value map. With the customer profile, we describe the jobs your customer is trying to get done. Jobs can be functional, like getting from A to B, social, like impressing friends and colleagues, or emotional, like gaining peace of mind. You highlight your customers' pains, which annoy customers while trying to get a job done. Pains and negative outcomes that customers hope to avoid, like dissatisfaction with existing solutions and challenges, frustrations, risks, or obstacles related to performing a job. And you outline customer gains, which describe how customers measure the success of a job well done. Gains are positive outcomes that customers hope to achieve, like concrete results, benefits, and even aspirations. Use the customer profile to visualize, test, and track your understanding of the people or companies you intend to create value for. It's a map that becomes clearer the more you learn about your customers. The second part of the canvas is the value map. With it, you list the products and services your value proposition builds on. You describe in which way these products, services, and features are pain relievers, how they eliminate, reduce, or minimize pains customers care about, making their life easier. And you outline in which way they are gain creators, how they produce, increase, or maximize outcomes and benefits that your customers expect, desire, or would be surprised by. The value map makes explicit how your products and services relieve pains and create gains. Use it to design, test, and iterate your value proposition until you figure out what resonates with customers. You achieve fit by creating a clear connection between what matters to customers and how your products, services, and features ease pains and create gains. Great value propositions target essential customer jobs, pains, and gains, and do so extremely well. Your customer profile may contain countless jobs, pains, and gains, but your value map highlights which ones you intend to focus on. Don't forget, an outstanding value proposition can still fail if your business model is flawed. Successful companies embed outstanding value propositions for scalable and profitable business models. Use the value proposition canvas to create products and services that customers want. Get started at strategizer.com.
So, any questions on what you saw? So, if you look at what you did in your business model class section on your exercise, you did come up with customers' values and what value you can provide, but there wasn't a conscious attempt to see the fit. That's something that you need to do as part of your value proposition canvas. We also didn't look at more details on the customer segments themselves. What are they doing? What are the flow that they go through? How do they come to, let's say, lift in this example? What are all the things that they touch? What are the payment methods? What are all of those different phases that they need to go through? We'll look at all of those things as part of the section here. And that's part of your next exercise, to look at every one of those activities that the customer does, what the product offers, and how you connect them, and how you provide the fit between the product and the customer. That analysis is very important for you to be very successful in this area. Right? So that's the next exercise that we'll do. But before that, we'll walk through all the necessary things, the customer profile, the characteristics, the assumptions, what we observe, what we verify in the market, and how we'll provide some benefits and what you design to attract those customers. Right? That's the purpose of this value proposition. So this you saw in the video. So it's just to illustrate what's there. Let's get to how to go to the customer profile. This is what we do in the exercises. We're just walking through that so that you know what needs to be done. And then either you grab a set of sticky notes and map out the customer profile, what are all the benefits they will get, how you will fulfill those benefits, what are their pains, how you can relieve those pains, all of those kind of things. You will look at that. You map out the customer profile, in that exercise. So this is a set of tasks that you do in selecting the customer segment, each one of them, what are the jobs they do, what are their pains, gains, and how to prioritize them. What are we going to accommodate as part of our business model? Obviously, we cannot take everything and accomplish it in one phase. So when we prioritize, that's the set of activities you will do, and what are all the things that you need to do. You will take it to the next phase. How do we map it to the systems that we have to develop, and then how we are going to develop the systems. That's what you'll do in the next 3 exercises.
Sorry, I got
Yeah.
lost. Custom jobs, what is the jobs mean there?
What are the tasks that they want to do?
Oh, what the customers want to do.
What do the customers want to do, right? So here is an example of some person trying to get a taxi. I think because you went through the business model exercise or the canvas exercise, you already looked at what they want, what are the benefit, what are their gains if it comes on time, reasonable price, they are professional looking, just like how you were asking for, easy payments. What are the pains they have? They are overcharged, they are waiting for a long time. Other customers are also competing. The driver is not a safe driver. And what the user does really, calling a taxi, finding a taxi, giving directions to them. Do they have to do or not? Is it all taken care of? How do they pay? So these are the pains, gains, and experiences that the customer faces. This is for a taxi exercise that you looked at.
But then the interesting thing on that last slide, you mentioned taxi passenger in a specific location. So how detailed and granular do you want to get the customer segment to be? Is it based on just, like for example, the ones that we did, which was a disabled user, like riding Lyft? Or do you want to say disabled user riding Lyft in the Bay Area that rides Lyft from a hospital to home? Like how granular can you get? How granular should you get? And what are the pros and cons of doing that?
So at the highest level, you don't need to get granular, but sometimes what happens, Janet was asking this question, you may launch a product to say, hey, here is this area that we want to enhance. And so I want to consider how we are going to extend our product to accommodate a disabled person being able to get from point A to point B in Bay Area, for example. That's the new project that somebody is going to launch. You can do the similar analysis at that level, Janet, what you were asking for. So you can go down to that level, but in this exercise, we don't necessarily need to go to that level. But yes, at every level, you can come up with these kinds of detailed analysis.
And also maturity of the industry and also where you are in terms of positioning. So Uber has an internationalization strategy, right? So probably they are doing that by country. What they do in China, and where the competition is China, and what they have to do there is completely different than what they do in Brazil, what they do in Portugal, as an example. So the segments is really up to you, the planner, decides that we are now discussing, we have a platform. Now we're discussing a sub-segment or micro-segment. How do you want to go after a more profitable segment? How do you want to expand geographically? How do you want to increase? Any number of drivers could cause you to decide what that sub-segment is that you're working on. There is no wrong answers. It depends on where you are in the maturity of the company, platform, and where you want to take it, basically.
So day one, they started with San Francisco and New York, for example, in Uber case, right? Then they started expanding, and then they saw some other places where there were local restrictions, whether they could go or not. They had to overcome all of those kind of things, yes.
Don't you have to be a bit careful that if you restrict yourself to a certain segment, when you want to expand, you've ignored things that later on are going to become key?
Yes, that is true. You want to, okay, you don't want to go and develop things very specific to a particular segment. At least you want to develop the underlying infrastructure that's flexible, that you can accommodate for other needs as well, eventually. Yes.
Yeah, but don't you want, I mean, because this is still an agile approach, you want to kind of think of high level, you know, category, and then you might want to go through, say, how do I want to roll this out to the market? Where's my market share? And then test certain ones and then create specific, you know, segment, you know, specific campaign to target particular customers, and then leverage that and build more enhancement and build more different type of clientele.
Yes.
Around there, right?
So please note that you don't do this only once. It's going to go on continuously because as you're expanding, you do this again and again and again with different experiences that you want, different gains that you want to give, different pains you want to remove.
That also depends on the industry or the company that I'm working. For instance, we started. I had a project a few years ago for pizza chain store. So we started with small shop of one of the stores, keeping in mind that we're going to scale it across the nation. So for that store, we started from that segment, and we elaborated the entire to the entire nation. That depends on the market. How I can, as a planner, would approach the project and work with customer for that segment and business owners and bring up the values, keeping in mind that we're going to scale at some level.
And there's a concept we'll talk about called the minimum viable product, the MVP concept. And again, MVP will have different contexts depending on industry and what role you have in it and where do you want to take it, who are you competing. There's a number of factors. These are tools, and the tools will be applied depending on what specific industry and what specific stage in the growth of that industry you're in.
Okay. Talk about the value proposition side of things here. Now, complementing the customer side of things, you have things that on the value proposition side, what are all the pains that you can eliminate from your product? There are, the customer carries no cash, or the driver carries no cash, or whatever. How do you handle those? How can you do instant bookings? How you do the driver assignment? You guys had a thing, I want a specific driver to come every time because I have a need. So when that becomes an important thing, that's the pain reliever that you're giving here to accommodate the customer, right? Similarly, from the gain side of things, what are all the things that you're doing to enhance the system? How the customers can rate your product so that other customers can understand what this service is providing, and how you create the experiences by providing a smartphone app that you were talking about in your experience thing. So you do all the products and services, you rank them, what's essential, what's nice to have, pain relievers and gain creators, and then you cut it off somewhere. Oh, I have only budget to deal with these kinds of things. This is what I'm going to give, this set of experiences. Now, how does it map to rest of the systems that I need to build as part of my company or my group, my organization, and then how do I go about doing that? That's the next part that will happen. Okay, so it's explaining that same thing, how it maps, each of the gains, how it maps to the gain creators, each of the features, how it removes the pains from the customer side, and what are all the mappings. So that's something that you will need to do in your next exercise to all the things that you got from your plan for the product, how it is mapping to the customer's pains and gains and experiences. So that's the mapping there. Some I can deal with, some I cannot deal with right now. So this is what I'm going to provide. Oh, okay. So So that's the value proposition side. Now this is assuming that you know everything about the customer. Do you know everything about the customer? No. How do you go about doing that? So some of the things that we did in some of my projects that I was in Cisco, we did the customer experience journey. How do you go to the customers and understand what are all the things that they need to do to interact with? So Cisco was a company that was mainly driven by hardware. Services and software and subscription was all not thought of at all when the company started. One of the products that we did was the first product that was, well, WebEx and others were all there, but they came with some kind of old model thinking when it was incorporated into Cisco. So our product went from scratch to think about the entire customer experience. How do we revamp that? So you go, interview customers, find out what their experiences are, what's the current state, what's the new state that we want to be in this new model, and how do you get that experience? How do you bridge that experience? How do you bridge that today to tomorrow kind of situation, present to future? That's the customer experience journey that we're going to talk about the next one here. You go through the complete life cycle of, let's say, there is a customer who wants to take taxi. What are all the things that they need to do? They need to be aware of this kind of service being available. What they need to do for considering Lyft as the alternative that they want to do. What are all the things, like the company giving discounts or their reputation being higher, all of those kind of things. They need to actually purchase that service. How do you retain customers? How do you retain drivers? And how do you advocate this for the long term? This is just an example. I don't know whether I have my example still here or not, but we need to find out or put this in consideration when you are looking at the customer's wants, needs, and fears. What are all the things that you are doing in accommodating that customer? So that's the customer experience journey. We look at a short video on what that is about. There are lots of videos on that one. I just picked one that will help you walk through. Yes?
Food is here. It is really hot now. Would like to take the food and then watch the video. I'm all for it, but it's your choice.
It's a short video.
Sure, this is like 2 minutes. So let me ask, is it the hot food that we should get to pretty quick, right?
I just wondering if you
Sure.
really want to enjoy
Yeah,
the food is there.
Yeah, we can do that for sure.
Okay.
So you want to do 2 minute video before we
Yeah,
do
let's do that.
Okay. We'll then just click on it and see if it comes up. Okay, there we go. And maximize it, that should go.
Hi, I'm Megan Grocki from MadPow, and today I'll be showing you how to create customer journey maps. Journey maps are a visual interpretation of an individual's relationship with an organization, service, product, or brand over time and across channels. A journey map helps us explore answers to the what-ifs that arise during research and conceptual design. They should include items like personas, a timeline, the emotions being felt by customers, touch points, and channels where the interactions are taking place. So how does one create a customer journey map? There are 9 key steps. Number 1, review the goals for the product or service. Number 2, gather our research. Some of my favorite research methods include customer interviews, contextual inquiry, customer surveys, customer support logs, web analytics, social media, and competitive intelligence. Number 3, generate a list of customer touchpoints and the channels on which those touchpoints occur. For example, the touchpoint could be pay a bill, and the channels associated with that touchpoint could be pay online, pay in person, or pay via mail. Number 4, conduct an exercise called an empathy map. Empathy maps depict the various facets of a persona and his or her experiences in a given scenario. The goal of the empathy map is to get a sense of how it feels to be that customer in this experience. Number 5, brainstorm with what we call lenses. This means we generate ideas in a short period of time with words representing key concepts, brand attributes, or mindsets that help us look at a problem in a different way. Number 6, complete an affinity diagram where we organize ideas and find cohesion in the team's concepts. It helps us focus on the right solutions for this audience. Number 7, this is the part you've been waiting for, sketching the journey. This is where we put together all the ideas the team generated for how to improve the future customer journey. Get creative on how you lay it out. There's no one way of sketching a customer journey. Number 8, refine and digitize. If visual design isn't your strong suit, consider collaborating with someone who can turn your journey map into an impressive artifact. And lastly, number 9 is to share them with zeal. Shout from the rooftops and display them prominently in common areas. That's all. I hope you found this useful, and best of luck in creating your own journey maps.
Okay, so just very briefly, you saw multiple phases that the customer has to go through in interacting with the company, with the product, starting from the awareness until advocacy. I mean, those are just an example. There can be 10 phases, 20 phases, whatever it is. For each of the phases, when you recognize, you need to go through all these 9 key steps in solving that problem. Okay? So when you start solving or analyzing each of the phase, what they need to do, how they need to go about doing things, you need help with other frameworks as well. And we are going to show some other framework next on the design thinking framework, which will allow you to do that problem solving. We are not going to go through in depth in the customer journey map or in the design thinking as an exercise here, but that's in another session if it's more detailed. Again, as David was telling, this is a 3-day, 5-day class. It can be when you go through the entire depth of what you need to do. But we are just going to introduce those topics. But in your value proposition canvas exercise number 2, keep those considerations in mind when you are going to come up with what you are going to provide as the pain relievers and game creators.
So do you want to go ahead and...
yeah, I'll just complete this.
Yes?
Oh, that's it.
That's it. This is the end of it. We're going to pause or let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
There you go. That's good. All right, so if you're okay with taking a working lunch break idea, we can go ahead and grab our lunch, come back here. We'll try to finish the presentation side of the things, and then we can take a short break and then do the exercise. So we'll just do a quick checkpoint to see when you want to tackle the exercise.
There are a few more slides in this section before we get to the exercise.
The journey map is a continuous journey, right? Do you keep doing this every so often?
For different segments?
Yes, it is. Except that you can't reach out to
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Directly. Sometimes get reduction.
You learn some stuff, and then you incorporate that, and when you get something wrong, you seek feedback from each of those segments, more in-depth feedback. That way you don't have to start everything.
Right. But I'm saying, like, you need to be certain of these stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially like you have touch points maybe different.
It does. Yes.
And the product management role is thinking about all of this stuff all the time. When do you engage them? How do you engage them? And what's the new opportunity?
And then I know we'll talk about it a little later, but then just mention product management as well. Yeah. It's everyone has product management.
Yes.
Right. So some people are confused.
Yes.
We can talk a little bit more on that and ask that question.
Just absolutely that whole section.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everything with large organizations, you may
staff all these different positions differently, depending on what are the value for. And many cases, I staff product owners from my engineering team.
Right.
And let the product manager like the outside interaction.
Right.
And feed it to the product owner.
So far so good. Tell you some. Great workshop. I'm really not happy that I can continue today because of something else.
Oh, that's right.
Or you need to be
He decided this was much, much better than the other opportunity.
Oh, you're running multiple things in different places today?
No.
Yeah,
I have a partner. I do it on the.
I think yes.
Yeah. Very gracious, agree.
No problem.
No, it's hard. You guys are doing this every Saturday.
Not every Saturday, once a month we do one. It is impossible.
Yeah.
We don't have so many members who can take advantage of it, so you have to feel the partner. So, yeah. I don't know, I need to really work on. I don't know whether it's a better job or a different channel to workshops to get a better response.
And also, during workday, some people, people all the time take 2 or 3 days away to go learn something.
Yeah.
So if the content that you have attractive, whatever reason they're interested in, then maybe on a Friday or some working days,
Yeah.
you can get away from.
Yeah.
So the thing is, this workshop is a full-day workshop.
Yes.
Like we did 7 3 years for them. So 3 days, that means there is a guy to do it 2 days. It's not a 1 day as well. So it's where to do 2 days. And I think we thought this is a better choice.
Yes.
It is a better option for them to come inside and work.
Yes.
But I understand that a lot of them have kids and there's a lot of other engagements on the weekend and they need to pretty much dedicate a whole day for this.
It's probably a balancing act, but I would venture against that if you kind of have once a working day month and a weekend month, you may get different audiences. Those who have family commitments can never show up on the weekend, and those who are busy work, they never can show up.
That's a good idea. We can go and check this thing, you can try basis. We workshop on 2 days, evening sessions like 10 about like 256 minutes, so maybe we can see it. So the challenge again is a huge area. For example, I work in Berlin.
Yes.
I work in Berlin, and I think they're coming here for 6 o'clock is very difficult.
Oh, yes. Especially after.
So yeah, if you are working at Sunnyvale or area of the Silicon Valley, so it's easy to get to the workshop by 6 or 6:30. Otherwise, it's difficult. So those are other challenges. So let's see how. Again, this year I've really seen really good workshop thanks to this for that. It's really got very good speakers, but my only unhappiness is like our members are not able to take real advantage of it.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, last time when I gave a PMI presentation, there were about 170 people. Sunnyvale small room.
So
this time there were only 25 or 30 people, right? Yeah. Right. So
again, this is a PMI event that's on a challenge. So economy is doing well. We have
that's
very good people are really doing well. So they don't.
They're all busy.
Yeah.
They don't look at this. So this is more of a or networking opportunity and looking for new opportunity. And then many times people take this just the previous day to continue. So that's what I think. I need to come up with a better way to really. The content is amazing. That's my point. It's really useful to them. Even if you're doing well, it's still that's a good channel spent here.
Professional development opportunity.
Great opportunity to do.
And that's useful. Yeah, that's useful for a lot of senior level managers. Yeah, our workshops are tuned towards different audience. Probably that's why we've done it. We don't have a large group here. We want to learn. That's why I'm here. Right.
I think There's a lot of it now. There's a lot of session. So now Caroline, is that too fast that we went through here? No. No? Okay. Because I know I was seeing a little puzzle look in your face.
Oh, well, no. I'm humble anyway.
So where is plant located here? Close by the Santa Clara? The vertical equipment. Yeah, right. So there's not there. There's not where? Oh, and you are in the Santa Clara. So what is
Nice dish outside if you want to try some.
When you start the section.
Okay.
3.
All right. So you want to go ahead and do the exercise and continue with this? Okay. Yep, sounds good.
That way we can just get this going quickly.
Sure. Yeah. So when David comes back, we can continue with the lecture part. And, yeah. Great.
I have a request, guys, to everybody. Can I send a request to join my LinkedIn network, all of you? Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah, the reason I'm asking is, we posted this event on the LinkedIn, and if you can, once I add you to my network, you can go back and put your comments, your experience on the workshop.
Yeah. And join us too, Hamid and myself. Please join LinkedIn network.
Vegetarian. The veggies are vegetarian, the musaka are vegetarian, and then the salad is vegetarian.
So I sent you the Uber.
Yeah, I will share that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So whenever you're ready, Prakash, you can go ahead and continue.
Is it recording?
No,
Yeah.
I'm copying.
Oh, okay.
Just start that
I'm sorry?
Go ahead. I'm starting.
Oh.
I'm copying, so I have enough content.
Oh, okay.
And the video is going already?
No, it's not.
It's not. Okay, I got you. So you have to copy it and then start it, you say.
Yeah, we can wait for a minute. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any questions on the customer journey mapping? This framework is another important framework for understanding what you provide for your customers and how you can provide that. Okay. So we talked about the 9 steps here. To solve any one of these ones, there's a lot of human side involved, and you need some problem solving. And that creative problem solving is what we are going to talk about next one. A framework for creative problem solving. This is called design thinking. It's a framework that initially was started in Stanford in the IDEO office. We'll look at a brief video on that one. Essentially, it's a little bit unlike analytical thinking when you look at design thinking, because if you look at the problems, there is a business side of things, there's a technology side of things, and there's a human side of things. All these 3 need to come together to solve the problem. And wherever human is involved, you need to have a framework that empathizes with the human side of things and solves the problem in that way. So that's why it starts with empathize, and then you define what the problems are. You brainstorm all the solutions that are required. And again, unlike in analytical problem solving, where you know exact cause and what the solutions are, your brainstorming is somewhat limited. When a human is involved, the brainstorm can be pretty open-ended. And how much you go open-ended and how you bring closure to those are some of the important things in this ideation phase. And then prototyping becomes very critical to your solution. You may think that you understood what you have done with the customer by talking to them, but when you come back and prototype it and take it to the customer, this is not at all what I said. So you need to really close that very quickly with the customer before you even, that's the testing phase, before you even go into full-blown implementation of your business model, right? So those are the phases in the creative problem solving, and that's design thinking. In fact, in Stanford, in that lead course that I took, there were 2 courses dedicated to the design thinking process. And it's such a very important thing. And if you go on YouTube, you will see lots of different exercises. This has come on many of the TV channels as well, ABC and all. They have talked about what process they went through to create a new way of shopping cart. Somebody, some company gave them that exercise. How do you create a new shopping cart that solves a problem that current shopping carts do not solve? And it's a fantastic exercise they went through to solve a simple problem like that in the creative, in design thinking way. So let's watch a video to briefly explain what that design thinking is about.
Hi there. Have you noticed that the world is full of problems? There are big, hairy problems like poverty and disease, and small annoyances like misplacing your keys. However, the geniuses at Stanford have come up with a process that will broaden your perspective and help you create better solutions, no matter the type of problem. This process is called design thinking, and it's here to change the way you tackle problems. Design thinking encourages people to explore alternatives, creating options that have not existed before. Design thinking is successful because it focuses on the need for the user. It's more than just good ergonomics. It's about understanding the context and culture of the stakeholders involved. This understanding is found using direct observation and qualitative data, which produces stories that people can really empathize with. Once the research is conducted, the problem solver is more apt to define what the real problem is. After diagnosing the true problem, it's time to ideate or brainstorm new ideas without the constraints of existing solutions. Because the design thinkers learn by doing, these radical ideas are then made into simple prototypes that test possible outcomes. Rapid prototyping speeds up the innovation process because we only learn about the quality of our ideas when we test them in the real world. The process of ideating, prototyping, and testing is repeated early on so that mistakes are quick and cheap and ultimately lead to success. So, why design thinking? The process provides a method and a unifying language for multidisciplinary collaboration, leading to greater creativity and better solutions faster. Suddenly, the world's problems are simple and manageable with design thinking.
Cancel that too. Come up at the bottom. All the VM within VM within VM.
Any questions on the concept of design thinking, the framework? How many of you have heard about this design thinking? Oh, wonderful. That's great. Okay. Super. That's fantastic. So the next topic will just be, so we will use these ones to solve our problem, but let's just keep it on side. We'll walk through the digital disruption that's being created with all the new technology, and then we'll start on that exercise. So this actually is talking about all the technologies that is there that's disrupting our business. How many of you are working in areas of AI or technology? Yes, definitely. So my startup is in plug and play here, close by, and I see almost half of the startups are dealing with AI. It's become so pervasive, as Andrew Lee talks about. AI is the new electricity. Every company that wants to do anything in the digital space, innovate in digital space, needs to embrace AI. So it's very important, the machine learning aspect. Big data analytics becomes a precursor to AI. Without doing big data analytics, there's no point in embracing AI because it's all mostly based on teaching your computer about the data that's already available. The chatbot, conversational assistant, the natural language processing, all of those things are very important. Every field is filled with these kinds of solutions right now. Blockchain, I know we've heard a lot about Bitcoin or other currencies going up and down, but blockchain as a technology hasn't been leveraged in many environments yet. And again, when you look at the new startups that are coming, a lot of people are working on blockchain. Not as much as AI, but blockchain is also right up there. Cloud, mobility, all of those, software as a service, platform or infrastructure as service are very pervasive. They have become table stakes. Everybody needs to already be there. Otherwise, we cannot embrace digital disruption. We talked about the digital. We talked about the digital platform, APIs, microservices, cloud native. These are all the things that are also there that needs to be embraced.
This is especially important in your modernization initiatives. If you have legacy systems that have to be looked at, they have to be modernized in some way. The typical scenario is where you try to wrap existing services wherever they live, whether in COBOL, Pascal, Fortran, if it actually does the job, and if you can create the encapsulation needed so that it's a productive service that can be used by others, that is, in essence, the future of everybody's legacy systems. You want to preserve the value that item's creating. You want to go ahead and encapsulate it, and you want to be able to publish the service that's available for others in the organization to use. So moving towards this API-based infrastructure and being able to manage this APIs across many different platforms and services that may be 20, 30 years old in some cases, becomes a critical core competency. So if you're in IT, if you're thinking modernization, if you're thinking what do I do with my legacy, it comes down to if it's good enough to keep, how do I expose that to an API, and how do I manage those set of APIs? At some point, you're going to have extensive set of internal APIs and external APIs, and many of those will use REST-based, REST-based type of APIs to be able to expose themselves to the entire environment and to your customers eventually and partners. So this is an area that, again, you could have a whole 3-day discussion around how do you modernize, how do you bring these technologies forward, and how do you actually, with minimal investment, bring some of these legacies to become a productive member of your core IT application portfolio and set of services.
Yeah, thank you. So new technologies are there in terms of being cloud native and microservices that can containers, we can encapsulate many of these things in containers and provide those services in a native way and pave your way to digital technologies and disruption. The next thing is on immersive experiences. You see in retail, there's a lot of work going on in augmented reality, virtual realities and all. How do you create those experiences? Very critical. Internet of Things we saw in the digital disruption, how many of the companies are trying to do. The robotic process automation, driverless cars, all of these things are coming up. These are all the things that are driving digital disruption. And to embrace these things, we need to do this fresh analysis. What kind of value we can provide to new values we can provide to customers. If we don't do in our companies, somebody else will do. And that's why this business transformation and digital transformation is extremely important to embrace at this time.
And a lot of times the customer experience may be affected. Imagine a conversational UIs. Imagine chatbots. Imagine channels that could be enabled with some of these technologies. So all of this eventually becomes part of your scenario planning and the design thinking and revamping how you engage the customer in a more productive way. All of us now carry these mobile devices that we can't be without. So thinking about how to maximize that device and that channel becomes a core part of our